fucking fuming! Mega fucking fuming!
Devil May Cry 2 is one of the worst games I've ever played in my life, and in this episode of Gr8, we're going to explore exactly why. If you want to skip to a specific section of the video, there are time codes on screen now and also in the description. So, spoiler warning from this point onwards, guys. Alright, let's jump right into it. Our story begins with a new character to the series, Lucia, attempting to steal a magical coin from a museum, and she's then attacked by demon vultures. She's then saved by Dante, and it becomes apparent to us how weak the voice acting is.
Till next time, son of Sparta.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so Dante follows Lucia to this mysterious island to meet her mother, where she tells us that she would like us to go and stop the demon tyrant leader of this land from attempting to become a god. So Dante and Lucia travel deeper into the sea to hunt down and defeat Tech and Terry. This is pretty simple, they just shoot him dead, but unfortunately a portal to hell is still open. Dante and Lucia then argue about who will heroically sacrifice themselves to close the portal from the inside.
I'll go. I'm expendable.
Stop, don't come back.
So Dante says fuck it, flips a coin for it, and he is chosen. He then goes into the hell portal, closing it from the inside, but inadvertently traps himself as well, ending the game. That is it. I literally just described the entire plot of Devil May Cry 2 to you. I'm serious, this game's story is like a 5.5 hour fucking stroke. I was constantly baffled about how little story there is or the minuscule amount of context they actually give you for what you're doing. You magically go from one place to the next with zero context of why or even how. The same thing can be said for who you're fighting. This is how the game introduces new villains. Oh, what the fuck is happening? Oh, you alright, mate? What are you looking at? Oh shit. That's it, villain introduced apparently. Then 2 areas and 1 hour later, down some fucking hole in the ground, he turns up again, says nothing and dies. Then an hour later, turns out he's not dead, and he just does it again. Either characters don't have an intro at all, or they cut away before they even have a chance to do anything. It's like the development team is scared of you getting invested in the story. The only saving grace of the story is Tech and Terry. He has one of the best lines in the game that just sums up the entire experience for me.
What's going on?
He was my favourite villain of the entire game. He's just so over the top, it's amazing. But it's really difficult not to have him be your favourite villain when he's the only one who fucking talks. See, I can forgive a lackluster story in a hack and slash game, but the worst crime, the unforgivable crime, is what they did to Dante.
Now we can stop Arius's ambition.
Whatever.
Look how they massacred my boy.
So, Hideki Kamiya, the director of the first game, was not asked to return or even consult on the sequel, and it looks like he took all of the charm of Devil May Cry with him, because Dante's character is gone. He's dead. Everything that made the first game bearable was in Dante's character, and it's been removed. He no longer taunts bosses, quips, or has any form of character. He's been transformed into a sarcastic edgelord fuckboy who flips coins to see if he'll save an entire village from being devoured by demons.
What an asshole!
And to top it all off, the coin doesn't even matter. It's shown later in the story that the coin is actually double-sided, so Dante will always help regardless. So what is the point in acting like a knobhead for the entire game if it's all just an act? You fucking dick! Luckily, you only have to put up with Dante for a short amount of time, because the game is only 3 hours and 21 minutes long. Holy shit, that is short, even for a PS2 game. And I did everything I could and searched every corner of the map for secrets, and it's still that short. Jesus Christ. Oh, actually, turns out there's another campaign where you play as Lucia. Should be around the same length, right? Making the entire game around 6 to 7 hours long. That's respectable. Lucia's playthrough is 1 hour and 48 minutes long. What? Wait, no, think positively, J-Mate. Okay, that's fine. A really refined and exciting campaign with Lucia in brand new areas. I can deal with that. Nope. It's basically the same campaign, apart from one level and the final boss. Not only is it basically a carbon copy of Dante's campaign, but shorter, it also just doesn't make any sense. See, Lucia and Dante's story run parallel to one another, right? So they affect each other's worlds depending on who went through the area first, which is a really cool idea. As the second playthrough you can see how the other character affected the level design, but they somehow fight The exact same bosses? What? How is that possible? If Dante gets to the Octopussy boss first and slays it, how the fuck is it there for Lucia? This is just lazy. Jesus Christ, this game. Okay, the story may be bare bones, but what about the gameplay? It must be better, right? When you think of a sequel, what do you think of? At best, you can expect an improvement of the series' mechanics, right? At worst, maybe a carbon copy of the first game's mechanics, just in new areas. Well, in this game, they remove mechanics from the first game.
What the fuck?
They took the incredibly fun and varied combat system of Devil May Cry 1 and they stripped it down, turning into this horrific pale imitation. In the first game, there were so many different melee weapons you could choose from, each one having their own moveset and combat style, leading to a lot of choice for the player and variety. In the sequel, however, there are 3 melee weapons, and their movesets are all the same. This makes combat feel so formulaic and stagnant and just destroys the excitement of finding new melee weapons. Because of these weapons, Dante felt a lot slower and weakened to me in combat. On the opposite side, Lucia's combat felt a lot more fluid and satisfying, which reminded me a lot of Bayonetta. It felt like I was playing a better, more polished game when I was playing as her. It's just a shame you only get to play her for an hour and a half. The biggest amount of variation in the combat is actually in the amount of ranged weapons you get to use. There are pistols, shotguns, submachine guns, a rocket launcher, throwing daggers, mines, needle guns, Jesus Christ. Each one having their own advantage and disadvantage. In conjunction with the overpowered devil trigger form, these ranged weapons turned into something I like to call
Machine gun hands.
This absolutely destroyed enemies and bosses. This was my favourite part of the combat, but it was for all the wrong reasons. To put it bluntly, the enemies in this game are just boring. Nothing overtly annoyed me about them, their attacks are just slow and predictable, and due to the new dedicated dodge button that Dante has, they're easily dodgeable too. At no point were any of the enemies a threat to me. This in combination with the simple combat system made enemies just a chore. It really didn't help that when I'd get through with defeating a pack of these enemies, I'd usually stop and write down some notes for the video, right? And the enemies would just respawn. Oh shit. So I'd have to slog through fighting the same enemies over and over. It was so frustrating. This is where machine gun hands comes in useful. If I have the choice between a 2-minute fight that I get no enjoyment out of due to predictable enemies and slow combat system, or blast the entire room with machine gun fire and kill them all in a few seconds. What the fuck am I going to shoot? Yeah, machine gun fire. This is made so easy because the game has an auto-targeting system. As much as the targeting system helped when using ranged weapons, in melee it is stupidly annoying. The game will randomly pick an enemy to target, which is completely fine because it's usually the closest enemy to Dante, but then mid-combo it will decide to change to some fucker on the other side of the planet, and Dante's attacks will always go towards the targeted enemy, so he just stands there flailing his sword around. This would also happen when trying to hit these little idols that you have to hit to unlock doors. All I need to do is hit this thing. But the auto-targeting is targeting some fucker off the screen due to the forced camera perspective, and Dante's attacks will manually go towards the target, meaning I can't hit this thing right in fucking front of me. Fuck!
Fuming!
This was not a problem in the first game, as you could freely choose what direction to attack in, even mid-combo. So why regress and fuck up the entire feel of combat?
Gives me conniptions.
The camera is equally to blame in this unholy marriage. When the camera works, it's amazing. The way it frames secrets in the levels to hint towards where to go, the cinematic angles that are a lovely way to introduce you to new areas, but it all just collapses into a pile of shit when you get into combat. It's just so horrifically bad at framing fights. Most enemies linger off screen, so you have to move to try and find them, and then the camera angle changes and it disorientates me to fuck. Does this seriously look like a good time to you? Jesus, this, along with the targeting system, ruined most combat encounters for me, and led me to abuse machine gun hands. Just like the enemies, bosses are stupidly simple and boring, and broken even. They only have 2 to 3 attack animations, and most of them don't have any way to deal with you if you just walk away from them and just shoot them with machine gun hands. They literally just stand there and repeat the same melee attacks while standing completely still. This is just lazy design. But one boss, and one boss alone, completely encapsulates everything that is wrong with this game. It's time for you guys to see.
The worst boss of all time.
Alright, let's go over the anatomy of shit. Here you'll spy, sir, the shitty camera angle, so you literally can't see the boss on the screen. Oh, perfection. And here, the boss not only being off-screen, but being a ranged enemy, so you can't use any of your melee abilities. The boss also repeats the same 2 attacks over and over, and has absolutely no chance of hitting you whatsoever. Cracking job. Oh, come on mate, sure it can't be that bad. Nope, fuck you, phase 2 incoming. Now parkour up this burning building and repeat phase 1, you little bitch. Oh fucking Jesus Christ, at least it's over now. Haha, bitch, you thought it was over. Phase 3 incoming. Go on then mate, parkour up some more buildings and guess what? Repeat phase 1 again until you've shot the helicopter enough times where it just decides to just give up. Alright, some of you might be thinking, a simple, quick boss, it's not that bad. This fight takes 20 fucking minutes, mate. 20 minutes of this 3-hour and 20-minute campaign is taken up entirely by this fucking boss. Oh my god. Exhilarating gameplay. I'm about to literally piss myself of excitement. Jesus, fucking, this game is so bad. Why? That's the question I was asking myself after I finished the game. Why, after the success and energy of the first game, why was the sequel so lackluster? So, I did some research and I think I know why. Devil May Cry was developed by Team Little Devils and directed by Hideki Kamiya. Due to the success of the first game, Capcom decided to put a sequel into development instantly. Neither Team Little Devils or Hideki Kamiya were asked to return or even consult on the sequel. Capcom just handed development over to one of their second development teams. And this, I think, is the reason why the game is so bad. Development of a game usually takes around 3 to 5 years, and this game was pumped out in 1.5 years. So it's safe to say that this game was rushed to get out as quickly as possible to meet the demand from the first game's release. Not only that, but the game was handed to a dev team who had never made a Devil May Cry game before, and they were given half the average amount of time to do so.
But wait! There's more!
An unnamed director was put in charge of leading the team to create Devil May Cry 2, but was fired 5 to 6 months before development was completed. Hideki Itsuna was then brought in to overhaul the game before it was released, meaning that most likely a lot of the design decisions made in this game were done under intense time pressure, and if any changes did need to be made, they only had 5 months to make them. After finding this out, you could really see how the game became what it is today. I genuinely felt bad for the development team, told to recreate what made the first game successful in such a short amount of time, with no chance to get guidance from the original team or director. It's almost like a game is an art form that is heavily dictated by the artistic design of the team that makes the game, and it can't just be handed around like a filthy huh. So guys, after all of this, what is my final verdict for Devil May Cry 2 overall? Hate. Jesus fucking Christ. Hate! This is one of the worst fucking games I have ever played in my life. There's not a single redeeming quality of the game that doesn't have an equally apparent drawback. And after doing research into the making of this game, it made me feel genuinely depressed for the development team. I hope they all kept their jobs and went on to create a really fun and unique experience for Devil May Cry 3. I guess we'll see. Thank you so much for watching, mate. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, why not subscribe and show me you like the series. Also, comment below what game you'd like to see me cover in a future Gr8 episode. If you've made it this far into the video, I'd like to offer you to join my channel's Discord server. Here we can communicate with each other, and you can help me shape the future of the channel with me. I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for the support, mate. I'll see you in the next one.